Okay, guys, so this is the assignment. First of all, we need to define these terms. After that, it has been asked to create a S3 bucket with name your first name, student ID example. So this should be really simple. We can just go to S3. Now over here, I've already created a bucket, so we can just go over here, say create bucket, and enter the details. And otherwise another details should be same, just we can keep it as default unless it's something has been mentioned specifically, so we can change the value. And we can just do create bucket, so simply our bucket will be created. And it has been said over here. And then see over here, it has been asked to enable the versioning. So while creating a S3 bucket, we can just enable the versioning option. We can just select that particular thing. After that, it has been asked to replicate the file of bucket to new bucket name, your last name in Mumbai region. So what we can do over here, we can just switch the region from here to Mumbai. Right now it is coming in gray, so we can see it is AP, the south, that one. So what we can do, we can just over here we can just do, we can enter this the query, and now we are on the Mumbai region. Now we can just create a bucket over here. After we have created the bucket, then we can go to our original bucket that we created in another region, that we want to replicate in Mumbai region where we just created a bucket. So over here we can come, we can go to management, and then over here we can create the replication rule, right? After that, there's this question number 3. It is saying that create an EC2 instance and host a website on that machine. Furthermore, create domain full name. So first of all, we can do this part. So I will now this part is I will do it right now. I've already done that, but just for the clarity, let me do it. So here's an EC2 instance, uh, 0 running. What we can do, we can go on launch instance. We can name it as test server, and we can select Ubuntu, and then it should be free tier eligible. Then for the key pair, I already had a key pair over here, so it's not showing over here. Yeah, because I'm in the Mumbai region, so I can switch back to the USE's dash one. I can just enter test server, select Ubuntu, P2 Macro, and see it is showing us this. So I already have this key downloaded in my machine, so I will just go with that. Otherwise, you can just create a new key pair and download the .ppk file, because we will access this through the PuTTY. Now for the security group, we can allow SSH traffic, and these two are important. We should take it as well, and we should keep it anywhere that anyone can access it, and from anywhere. And now in advanced detail, we can keep it as is, and we can just do launch instance. So it is launching the instance. Instances. terminate this because I don't know, it might start charging me. Okay, terminate it. And this one should be up now. Okay, it is running. Now we can just copy this public IP. You can go to the putty, enter the public IP over here. It should be 22 default. Then we can come to SSH auth and enter our this EPK over here, and we can do open. Accept login as Ubuntu. It is default Ubuntu. It's a username, and it should give us the access. So we are now inside our EC2 instance. Now it has been asked to host a website on this public IP. So right now, what we need to do, we need to install a web server. Either it could be Nginx or Apache. So we can go with the Apache because just for the demo purposes, because it is quite simple with that. Do okay. So we have our web server running over here now. Now the default file for our web server should be inside Word www/html. I do ls. Here it is index.html. So right now, if I put my IP in the browser, I should see the default Nginx page. See. So what we can do, we can just edit this index.html. What we can do, we can just rename it HTML fine, and we can create a new index.html, and we can just write our name or and our registration ID. So Taha, I'm gonna just quickly write this, save it. Now if I reload the page, I should see Taha over here. Right, so our website is coming on this IP now. Now what was the next thing? The next thing is mm, my file. The next thing, it has been said to create a private domain with your full name example.com. So we can just go to route 53 to do that. Route 53. Here we can do create hosting hosted zone. We can click over here. Now we can write our example taha.com uh, hosting website. It should be private because it has been mentioned over here that create a private domain. Okay, so after that we need to select the VPC default, maybe somewhere US East one, and default VPC. Now we can just do create hosted zone, so it should do the job. Now we need to create the records over here. It has been mentioned over here to create a failover record which primarily points to EC2 instance, and secondary should be 111.1 resolve the domain from EC2 instance. So we will just configure a failover record first to create record. Over here it should be a route. It should the record should be a record. uh, um, we can keep it as blank. This is not simple routing, this is failover routing policy, and it should be primary. And in primary it has been said that it should go to our EC2 instance machine IP, so we can just put this IP over here. And for the health check ID, we need to provide this because it is necessary, otherwise it will give an error. So we can just go to info, and we can just go to this health check URL. Over here we can just do create health check, example name. We can provide our EC2 instance IP. Domain is our name.com. Port should be 80, because right now we don't have SSL over here. It's going on HTTP. Path we can give it a default, and we're good to go over here. And just create the health check. Okay, so we can just go to this health check now, and we require this ID to be passed there. Over here, over here we can just name it anything, maybe test record, and we are good to go with this. We can just do, or we can just add another record as well, because we need to add another record, and it should be a secondary record, and secondary should be a point two four ones. So this is a secondary record. We all the setting will be same. The IP would be just this, and over here we can select failover. The health check should be the same as well. Now we can do secondary, and we can just do test record one, and we can do create records. Okay, so our record has been created. This is exactly what was mentioned. Now what we need to do, we need to resolve the domain from our EC2 instance. Okay, we can just restart the session. Ooh, okay, now if we just do ns lookup and enter the domain that we set up, it should resolve into our public IP of our EC2 instance. See, it is getting resolved. So our record has been set up correctly. So this is exactly what was required over here. Now we need to add similarly the CNAME record. So we can just go create record, and we can enter subdomain was, I think, a student, and it should be a CNAME record. It should resolve into our EC2 instance IP. Add a CNAME student full name to google.com. Okay, it should resolve to google.com. Fine. Just enter the google.com over here. Okay, just like this. Okay, now we need to enter a PTR record as well of our EC2 instance IP, and it should be our EC2 instance IP to your domain. Okay, so we can do that. We can just create another record, select PTR from here. domain should be me, your full name. You can enter me, and then this is already a full name set up a domain previously, and it should resolve to our EC2 instance IP. We can just provide the IP over there. IP 1 and 222. Okay, now it is working. Perfect. So there should be no spaces, just commas, right? So previously I was also facing an error over here as well. So I will just add this screenshot. Anyway, so this is, I think this is all for the question number three. After that, in question number four, we have been asked to configure a CDN service to your website hosted on S3. Enable the website catching to use. Okay. So for this, we can just search for the cloud front because it is the CDN of AWS provided by AWS. We can just go to. I've already created it before for this assignment. We just go to create distribution. Enter the origin. Uh, it should be this our bucket. Sorry, should be the main page of our bucket, and the origin path. You can give it as slash or your domain name over here. Then it should be public. We can keep it as default. We can go in advanced setting or enable security protection. Enable it. After that, this is what has been mentioned that it should use USA and only Europe parts. So we can just select this option and we can just do create distribution. So it should be created and enabled. Okay, and after that, it has been asked that we need to create a subnet group and add at least two availability zones and deploy a database on Mumbai region using RDS servers. So this is pretty simple. We can just go to subnet groups. Uh, Already created for assignment. And just name our group over here, and we can add select default VPC. And over here, it has been asked that we should select at least two availability zones. So we can just take two and then uncheck others. And since two availability zones with the original availability zone where our subnet is group is deployed, or maybe excluding it, so we can select it just three, that our subnet is over here, and excluding our subnet availability zone area, we are uh, selecting two availability zones as well. We can just select choose and we can just create it from here, so it should be fine. It should be created. After that, we can just go to RDS because we need to create the database over here, and this is I'm going to actually create it over here for you, and I will access it through MySQL client. Now over here we need to create a database, so it has been asked to create MySQL. So you can just select MySQL, and we can go to standard, create. Uh, it is should be free tire, and we can just name our database over here. It has been already mentioned over here that we should name it as uh, cluster identifier should be our name, default user should be your last name. So we can just configure the settings over here. It should be your name, and it should be over here. You can mention your last name, and over here make sure it is not in capital, might give an error. And over here we can just enter credentials. Okay, should be fine. We don't need to it to be connected to EC2 instance. Access. Okay, this is important. Just select it. Just say yes because we need to access it through our client. Otherwise, we won't be able to access it. Choose existing VPC, and database name. We can specify the student as mentioned in the question. And retention, it has been mentioned that it should be of 5 days, I guess. And choose window should be 11:30, and after every 1 hour. So this is what it has been mentioned over here. To show you, see, this is the retention configuration that has been mentioned. Database is student. Now we don't want the replication possibility. Now we can just do create database. Okay, let it come up. It's still creating it. Until then, we can just open our DBVR client. Process. It should take some time. Okay, so our database has been created. Now let us fetch the connection endpoint. So we can just click over here, and this is our endpoint. This is the port. We'll just come over here. We will select my SQL from here. This is our endpoint. This is the port. It is just a default port where the database was a student, right? We specified username was our last name, if you remember, and we enter. We has chosen a password over there. Wrote a password, so we should enter that over here. Now we should test the connection. Let's see. It should probably be failing. There's a reason because see if I come over here in the security group rules, so we can see that the outbound rule is allowed, and for the inbound it is using a default rule, which is not configure properly. But what we can do, we can just create security group, allow, you can say allow access. We can now say, now in the access or MySQL, select the VPC, just already selecting it. And now we should add the rules. It should be the inbound rule. So it should be, we can just go with all traffic custom, and we can select this over here, all traffic custom, and it's already been selected. We can just create the security group. Okay, so we have the inbound rule and outbound rule as well set up. So see over here, it is saying this last packet sent successfully to a server. The driver has not received any packet from the server. So actually the inbound rule over there in our RDS is like allowed from anywhere, but the outbound is actually blocked. So we need to see, we need to check the outbound rule. So what we can do, we go to this RDS, already in the RDS databases. Now I can select this, I can, I can modify it, and over here I should choose the security group, which is the default one, but I want to now choose this allow access default. Either I can remove it or keep it. It doesn't matter because it will first see for this allow access security group according to the priority. Its priority is high, so it should look for it. I will see it. Sorry, back retention. I need to see. Fine. Now I can just continue, modify. Okay, so it has been modified. Now if I go to this, show you the connectivity and security, and inside security group we can find, see it is first checking for these rules. So inbound is allowed and outbound is allowed as well. So now if I go and if I do the testing, I just closed it. So me enter the endpoints as again, endpoints, the base was student, right, password we set up was this, and we can just test the connection. Okay, perfect. So it is being connected. You can just connect it. So we now in our RDS MySQL database created in AWS. I will just expand it. Database now, it has been asked that we need to create the table inside the database. So we can just run this query, create table student underscore ID, create database in MySQL. Sorry, create table in MySQL query. So it is giving us the format. So we can just copy it from here. Let's come to dbware, paste it, just rename it as student underscore ID. can just keep the person ID, and now we can just execute this script. Okay, so it is giving a syntax error. Let me see what is the error. Okay, this comma should not be here. I think now if I execute the script, it has been successfully executed. If I go in student tables, refresh. Okay, so we can see the student ID table over here. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.